Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Robbie, what's happening?
Hey. Oh, yesterday when we did this, I was in the middle and you were in the corner, and now you're in the middle and I'm in
Yeah, I think it'll change the more and more people sign on.
the Okay.
Yeah.
I got my warrior gear on. And I wore this.
Well, I like coffee and maybe 3 people.
and go full warrior gear.
Yeah, well, that T-shirt tells it all. I just had to go.
I got my coffee.
In very typical Ben technology warrior sailing type situation, I was signed on at 10:30, and then the internet decided to crash 7 minutes later. You know,
well, that's the way it goes. Let me take this off.
So we'll more people are signing on right now, so we'll
Do I need to should I use my headphones or should I let it go on the speaker?
whatever you're using right now works really well. I can hear you really well.
Oh, I'll use the headphones. Hang on one second though. There we go.
Oh man, I don't know. I gotta tell you, that coffee shirt's pretty badass.
What's that?
That coffee shirt's pretty badass. I want to know
Oh,
where you
well then
got
I'll
that.
put it back. I'll put it back on.
No, I mean, that's great. That's how I feel.
That's the fucking way it is.
Yeah.
So, man.
Yeah, internet and technology. It's all coming back, Robbie.
Yeah, it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah.
It's cold up here in Maine. I don't know about Michigan, but it's a little chilly today.
Well, I told you yesterday when we talked, it was nice where you were, and I said, well, the weather's coming across. It's going to be cold and rainy tomorrow, and I think that you got your jacket on, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, well. You know who works here now? I forgot to tell you. Nick McAuliffe.
Oh, Nick got a job there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Nick and
okay.
Candy moved to Maine.
Yeah, he wrote me a message the other day, and he said he was leaving Charleston and wanted to know, if I was ever going to be up in Maine. And I said, hey, if you need contacts up at the Maine Yacht Center, I can.
Yeah, he's here. He's out there putting a boat together right now.
Is he? Nice.
Yep.
How about that? You guys like run into each other like, oh, there we go.
Well, no, I knew he was coming.
Okay.
I helped him talk to Brian, and Dan Volpe and I introduced him to Brian Harris and got it all done. So he's been planning on coming here for a while. So
okay. Nice.
So
cool, man.
Man.
Gonna give it a couple more minutes.
Oh, then I should totally smoke some cigarettes then.
Oh, well, I mean, go do what you need to do, Rob. Give us a couple minutes with people logging in.
I got nowhere to be, man. I mean, I got shit to do. I've been working all morning, but I just want to make sure I don't get locked out of here. It's all shut down. Today's the first day the marina's open, but no customers are allowed inside. So it's all like.
So what do they constitute you? Are you a customer at Maine Yacht Center, or are you you're just Rob?
I'm just Rob. I work on the racing boats. They cut me a little slack. Let me,
Yeah, these are all highlights that we're going to talk about as to why it makes sense to talk to people in the industry.
I get the special treatment.
Well, you get a special treatment in different ways,
but yeah. Well, all seems to be working out okay.
We're going to give it a couple more minutes, everybody, just so people were having trouble getting on. They should be able to get on. See, right now, Robbie, we got 13 people. Other people are kind of.
It's hard to believe that 13 people would want to hear what I have to say. That's amazing.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people want to hear you. Really, I mean, it has always surprised me, Rob.
Yeah, it's surprising. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Joey's boat goes in on Monday, and that'll be interesting. So still chilly here. It's like winter still, you know. So
What's what's Nick? Is Nick going to work on the commissioning crew there, or is he?
he's on the rigging crew right now, putting masts together, and they're stepping a rig on like a Hansi 50 right now or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was here yesterday with Candy was here, and Sarah was here, and a couple other people that work here. We had a couple beers out in the parking lot. So I was with social distancing, but still getting a little Purell for the insides, you know. So that worked out okay. So that was nice. And apparently they just found a place to live.
Nick's like one of my favorite people, I think.
He's a good dude.
We worked together on the schooner Pride when I was in college, and then he was getting pretty fed up with that. And so I introduced him to John Michelle and brought him over to the commissioning crew over at St. Bart's. He quickly excelled there because he knew how to use tools, and I was just an idiot college kid. So pretty soon he was like running the place, and I was still washing boats and doing teak. But that's kind of how it works.
That's because you were playing with drumsticks and fucking and hockey sticks, right? You know, that's all you knew how to do. So.
I had other obligations, Priorities, I think, were a little bit askew at that point in my life. But Nick was he really took that commissioning crew. He was a member over there for like 10 years.
Yeah, he's great, and he's in a good place. This is a good place with a lot of good people. So so
he's just a good dude. And he so then they moved off their boat. I know that they were living on a boat.
They sold it.
Okay.
Yep. So that's sold to some young lady in Charleston that wanted to live on the boat, and so so now they're Mainers now, like me. I told them not to do it. I said you're making a huge mistake. It's cold and crappy here. It's gonna snow.
You're always the pillar of good news, Rob.
Yeah.
That's great. If I ever need a motivational speaker, I just call Rob. What could I get today that would really help me out for my life? Yeah.
If you want some advice, I've got some.
Yeah.
I've got some.
I'm gonna pin you.
Boy, I look terrible. Where's my makeup person?
I don't know. You should have had them hired.
Somebody do something for me. I'm getting older every day.
You wonder why, like, Bill Murray and the guys all look like they're still the same age. Is that the camera is good? I figured out that.
It's definitely the camera.
You know why Will and Sam, the videographers, were always trying to put us in the right light? That's because,
yeah, I know, because I look terrible. Maybe I should find a new spot.
That's not true, Rob.
Should I move into the? I can move into the dark. That's better. That's better. That's better. Maybe I'll just turn all the lights out. Everything will be fine. Let's see.
All right. So, we'll get started here. It's 11:08. I think people will still kind of gather in, and for everybody that's on, we're going to record this in different ways and maybe just do a short edit. And the idea is that the recording we'll use for some promo for next week's character of Warrior Sailing that we highlight. I just wanted to go through and explain to everybody. First of all, thank you for all signing on, and thank you for being here. We wanted to keep the momentum moving forward with us communicating with everybody that's been through the program on a couple different reasons, and that's why we've kind of developed this morning watch. And for those of you that have done deliveries, or maybe you're in the Navy or other things, but being on watch, you're on deck, you're in charge, and everybody else gets a chance to sleep. So we thought we would do morning watch, because sometimes our stories in the evening get a little bit more elaborate, and they're not actually that true. So we thought coffee would be a better way to do that. So we are developing morning watch is what we're going to call it. And we are here to talk to you as far as the Warriors go. This first trial run, we're going to try and continue to get better at this. This is our first go at it. And if you have suggestions, email us or email Corey. I mean, we've got some ideas. The chat box will be open if you're interested in asking some questions while we go on. What I'm going to do, and the reason why we've got Rob here, is we're just going to talk a little bit about sailing, talk about the sailing community, talk about what Rob's been up to. We waited for Rob to get off of a delivery and onto shore for the first one because we wanted someone who, all of us, the first thing we said was, well, we got to get Rob. I mean, he's got to be the first show. I mean, he's got to be on there and the interview's got to happen, but he was sailing offshore and we thought that might be a little bit of a stretch for our technology ability. So that was a little bit interesting, but I think our primary focus and what we've learned a lot, I mean, in the last couple of weeks, and I don't want to highlight or dwell on certain situations and what we have going on, but we're dealing with what we've got. And that's a perfect sailing analogy. I mean, Rob and I have spent a lot of time on the ocean. Rob, majority of his life is spent on the ocean, and you have to deal with whatever you've got in front of you. And I think that's what we're doing right now, but we're trying to stay as hopeful and open and try and get everybody just to come together, because the connections and camaraderie that surround this program are really what keep it alive. And it's the Warriors that make that happen. And it's the people that I've introduced to the program from my sailing background. And this is the chance for us to all get to know each other a little bit better. But I want to keep everybody together. And we do that on a weekly basis. There's also a couple other things going on, if you haven't noticed, and there have been emails out about joining some virtual sailing and virtual instruction. And if you have more interest in that and you're on this, email Corey. Again, email Corey. Same thing as at camps. If you have problems, call Corey and ask him for some information about how you can go virtual sailing. It's pretty cool. We're doing Wednesday night races as a group on an online service and just trying to continue the process moving forward. So camaraderie, friends, stories. We're going to go through a list of kind of interesting things Rob and I have been through together or separately. And it is actually one of my favorite parts of Warrior Sailing is to bring my sailing community to the people of Warrior Sailing. And with that, we're going to dive into Rob's life. He told me yesterday you were an open book.
I am. You can ask me whatever you want. I'll tell you what would make me happy, though. Can you put yourself up in my corner of my screen? So that I look like I'm talking to you, or do I have to just talk to myself?
Well, what you can do, I think if you swipe right, you're on your iPad, right?
I'm on my cell phone. Yeah.
Okay. If you swipe,
oh, there you are.
It changes the view.
Oh, look at that.
And I think you want to be like a gallery mode or something, not the person who's talking. Like I've highlighted you. You're big on my screen.
I'm big on my screen and in the top corner. That's all. But I can get over it. I'll look.
You just keep noticing how awful you look today. Rob, I don't know. You look great. I don't know.
I'm getting old, man.
Really makes you look good.
What's that? Yeah, I think it's the Warrior sailing gear makes me look good. So
yeah, if anybody was worried, I carry my magic whiteboard with me all the time, so I know which way the wind is coming from. It's
yeah, good. I could use that. I could use that once in a while.
So Rob Windsor, let's go way back.
Okay.
Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Biddeford, Maine, but I'm an adopted kid, so I grew up on Long Island in New York, not the Long Island out here in Maine. Long Island Sound, Centerport, New York.
Nice. So outside of sailing, this is what's always interesting to me, is the sailing community is built of characters, right? I mean, the whole thing is characters. But there's certain people that have a more interesting background as to how they got into sailing than others. And I think what we end up finding is the people that are involved in Warrior Sailing aren't necessarily the rock star Terry Hutchinson, America's Cup sailors. A lot of the guys that are brought into the program are kind of at the workmen's level. And
well, you do have Dave Scott. I mean, so there's that.
Davey's like, he's an outsider, right? He's like in that, like, who's that guy? And there's a lot of accomplishments and humble backgrounds in sailing, but we'll go through some of your sailing exploits. But how about, I know you had one particular job before you took on professional sailing. What jobs have you done? And then I guess college, you played basketball, right? That's the lanky side of you?
Played basketball in college, yep. And then I was in the sewer and drain business in New York for a while. So I sucked shit out of the ground for a living. So that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, you don't bite your fingernails, I've noticed.
Yeah. And, but yeah, I got into this part of sailing that I've been in for like the last maybe 20 years now, because I wasn't really happy digging holes anymore. And I figured I'm just going to try to figure out how to make a living doing what I like to do. So, yeah, I went up and knocked on the door at the sail loft and got a job because I wouldn't go away. And yeah, now I take care of class 40s mostly. So long distance, short-handed racing boats. Long distance meaning like across the ocean with just 2 people on board, and sometimes just 1 on board. So.
And so when you say preparing or working on them, you are literally, why I joke about this, but you're not a customer at the main yacht center. You're one of the people that are there preparing the boats.
Yep, I don't work for the boatyard. I work for the owner generally, but yeah, I'm a preparateur. So when I'm not racing, I'm getting them ready, and so the job title is preparateur. And so I try to figure out how to make sure we're not going to break too much stuff while we're trying to win a race.
Yeah, and so you've adopted the OPB lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially on the boats that I've come to work on and kind of found my little niche in the business. They cost way too much for me to afford, no matter how much they pay me. So it's much nicer to help get them ready, and then maybe once in a while I get to go race on the same boat and do some deliveries and whatnot. It's worked out pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think you found that little niche in sailing, which is in the professional world. You know, you've got your deckhands that work on big yachts. There's captains that are fully licensed, drive big boats, and a lot of it, we call it the entertainment business, is a lot of times there's somebody who's super wealthy or has been made some good money or is just super psyched about sailing and has the means or the sponsorship to be able to afford the boat and the crew. They don't have the time to work on the boats. So you found your niche, not necessarily on big yachts, even though you just were a captain of a big cruising yacht, but now you're back in the racing world. What do you like about that niche, about that?
Well, it's perfect for me. You know, I'm pretty happy being by myself, especially on the ocean. And, you know, the thing I like about it, having raced boats with, 15, 18 guys on board, I enjoy it being just one other person, and they're sleeping generally while you're up. So yeah, you don't really have to talk to anybody, but you get to do everything. So you get to trim, you get to navigate, you get to look at weather, and you get to do all the things that, as what you know as well as I do. Being on a team of 18 guys, you have one specific job, and that job might just be sitting on the rail. And while there's nothing wrong with that, as you progress, some people have made a great living just sitting on the rail. But I enjoy the lead up, so getting the boat ready and then doing the sailing with not too many people on board, and then taking it all apart again. And I got books and books of the boats that I've worked on and the races that we've done. Makes it fun for me.
Cool. Do you remember one specific moment when you realized that you wanted it to be your job?
Yeah, wow. I remember racing with Mike Hennessy on Dragon and going out and doing very well. We beat everybody. We raced to Maine, actually. We did the Lobster Run, it's called. It's from Stonington, Connecticut to Booth Bay Harbor, Maine. And we beat everybody. We were the only double-handed boat, and we beat everybody, including Scotty Price on Blazer and his whole crew. We got line honors, and I was like, man, this is pretty awesome. I could certainly handle working on a boat like this. And that was about the time for me. So
yeah. And so, I think bring it back to kind of the sailing community. Were you growing up, were you sailing? I mean, is that something you've done for a long time, or is that?
Yep. We lived on Long Island Sound. My parents had a boat, and I started racing boats when I was about 8 on Blue Jays. I don't know if everybody around the country has Blue Jays, but it's a tiny little 2-person boat with a spinnaker, and that's what we started racing on. And yeah, I've sailed. My parents had boats growing up, and sailed. I've been sailing my whole life.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like we always end up, these conversations privately or with other boat people that, as much as that seems fantastic, there's also an element of work involved in that and preparing boats and boat yards and being in the nicest places in the world, but the crappiest parts of the nicest places.
Yeah. And, going to all the places that I've been in, all the countries I've been, and people are like, oh my God, did you get to go to such and such? And of course I didn't, because I was laying in the bilge of the boat, fixing the autopilot or, whatever the case may be for what we needed to do at the end of the race or the beginning.
Yeah.
It's definitely work. But it's pretty good. It's my favorite thing to do in the whole world, and somebody pays me to do it. So that's not too bad.
Pretty good way to do it.
Yeah.
And then our paths cross.
Yeah, in you were working on the Bandit, right?
Yep. Yeah. Swan 42. So
and
this
then,
just for all the warriors, this is usually how this happens, and we're going to go through the 10 degrees of Kevin Bacon situation here about how all of us know each other, including somebody we were talking about before the show started, who moved from Charleston to Maine and used his contacts within the network to then work, and he's at the boatyard Rob's it right now, and we all know him, and I worked with him for a bunch of years. It's a very small community, and it's a very small group of people that all do this working in and out of sailing. So you're constantly looking over your shoulder for your reputation, but it's kind of also that you just end up in these different locations and meeting the right people. And usually that's because you're working in the industry or you're around the industry. And I think one of the things I want to expand to the warriors about when I met you was also, in a time where I had already put a lot of years in sailing and sitting on rails and doing things for free, that allowed being in the right place at the right time and knowing the right people is all the sailing community and most of life in general. But I think a lot of warriors have experienced that with warrior sailing, being introduced to the right people or being put into situations where they can have opportunities. But you can just kind of expand on that, how small the community is and where you ended up, and then how our paths cross.
Yeah, I mean, the sailing community that I'm involved in. I mean, if you're in the cruising community, we might never cross paths, but if you're in the racing community or you're in the places where a lot of race boats end up, I bet you that I know you or I know somebody who knows you. And that's just from being around a long time. But also, it's a very tight-knit group of friends that maybe expands just a little bit. But, I can't think of, just the way we know each other, from knowing Hugh Piggin Jr. and the Atlantic Cup and, the Atlantic Cup, the first one, right? Went from New York City to Newport, Rhode Island, and you and Timmy were on the old Icarus, right?
Yep.
So, but just because, and then you lived with Junior for a while and you lived with Timmy for a while. And, I slept on your couch for a while. It's a whole, but that's just the way it goes, right? Just from racing sailboats and, so-and-so. Oh, great. Yeah. Come on over. So it works that way the world round.
Yeah. It's all the way around the world. I mean, you've got friends in France and you spent some time doing that.
Yeah, you got that good story about showing up in France and not knowing anybody and walking in the bar and saying, "Oh, JC said we could stay at his house," and the guy gives you the keys and you walk upstairs.
Well, the caveat to that was Tim and I had just finished the transatlantic in the middle of February, which is
Yeah, which was stupid.
yeah. Well, stupid is when you're 24 is pretty much.
Yeah.
So we ended up in La Rochelle, and the person who put us on the boat, who got us the connection, he flew to France. Okay, smart guy. He put us on the boat. We get to France, and he said, "Just go to Selfie at the bar, and the keys for my flat are in the back of the bar, and the guy will give them to you." The caveat was that we couldn't leave with the keys until the bar closed.
Yeah. Wow, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. Speaking no French and finding a flat in La Rochelle, a place you had never been after being offshore for 14 days and in a bar for 7 hours was not the easiest thing, but it builds character.
Sure. Yeah, it does. And look at you now.
Oh,
Look at you now. Yeah. All grown up.
Yeah. All grown up. But I think then the paths cross. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the adventures that you've been on and some of the sailing that you've done, but warrior sailing. So I come to you and I say, I need a coach, right? I mean, this is at the beginning, 2014, probably.
Yeah, I think I didn't make it to the first. I don't think you invited me to the second camp you had. But I yeah, I mean, every chance I have, that's where I would rather be. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And you've so tell me a little bit about that experience. I mean, your first camp, and now, what's your warrior sailing background for those of you people that maybe were at a camp that you weren't at, which would have been unique, what they might have. My first camp, I came away with this is the greatest thing ever. Being in the sailing business, I'm not a wealthy person, but I've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and the teaching wounded vets how to sail thing it blew me away. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my whole life. And it makes me well up a little bit, almost like I want to cry when I talk about it, because it's awesome. And it really makes me feel good. And I think that the feedback that I've gotten from the participants that I've had on board on the boats that I've sailed on has been really great. And, you take somebody with a big puss on their face the first day, and we pull a couple strings and the boat tips over and we go sailing, and the smiles come, and it's nice to share my favorite thing to do with the guys and girls that have earned it. So that's what I like about it. Yeah, well, me too. I think all the coaches feel that same way. And I think when you first started, obviously the organization was very new, trying to work a lot of things out, but I think the primary thing that we always come back to is that the coaches and the people that are introduced to the family, which everyone that's been involved in warrior sailing since day one, no matter what camp you were at, you're a part of the family, whether you like it or not. That's why a lot of them are on the phone call right now.
Yeah.
But do you have a couple highlights, or do you remember a specific story of a camp? Because I know you've done a lot of them, even the summer sports clinic. Is there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the greatest with names, so some of the names are going to escape me. But we did a couple down in Florida that were really fun. I've got one of my favorite pictures is us crossing Dave Scott, I think, coming to the finish line. We won that race. That one was good. There's a couple other ones. We had a really good camp in Newport. Where I had the big, I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, I have done a lot of them, and I've had a really great time. The summer sports clinic has also been interesting. That's a tougher one for the coaches, but it's still a great way to expose people to a great sport, and have another outlet. So.
Yeah. And then Charleston Race Week, you raced.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mike Hennessy on Class 40, and it kind of goes back to this whole thing about the community and how open the sailing community is to welcoming warriors to the community. Whether we want to stay separate and sail on our own and do our own thing, which we've learned is really fun, just to have a group of vets and a couple warrior coaches. That seems to be something that we've all realized is a really good thing, but also just the generosity in the sailing community and the connections our coaches have made, you especially, whether that's finding, Mika helping out with some expenses so that during the years that we didn't have enough money to pay you as a coach to come coach, you had a boat owner that was willing to pitch in some funds to help you get there and help you get paid through him.
Yep.
So
That was Mike Dries, actually.
that was Mike Dries. Okay.
Yep. But I mean, Mika Davis did the same. We had for the Atlantic Cup, we did the inshore series, the Pro-Am in New York City with some Warriors on board, and we flew the Warrior sailing flag, and so that's been good. Yeah, and I mean, I've had a couple of Warriors offshore with me as well, back in the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, it's been really good, and whatever whatever I can reach out and talk to an owner and say, hey, we really could use some help. Can you donate some money? Can you let us use your boat? That seems to have worked out.
And that's why the swag gets handed out pretty quickly to all the coaches, because they're in the community and they always talk highly about how he thinks. Like, what's that?
Yep.
The coaches are always out advocating for providing opportunities. And speaking of providing opportunities, you do have a rule about who you sail with offshore.
Yeah, I don't go sailing with anybody I don't know anymore. If that's what you mean.
Yeah.
It's just, being offshore and having somebody who really wants to be there, but maybe, gets seasick, or they might have thought they really wanted to do this, and then they get in over their head, but we still have, 500 miles to go. That can be painful. So,
and I think that's what Ian has been doing with the outreach network and providing, we said this in one of our organizational meetings. Warrior Sailing it provides, and it does it on a bold manner. Like, we do things outside the comfort zone that other programs might not do by providing opportunities that are pretty real. And real can also mean a really tough time. I mean,
yes, it does.
I have put the caveat with the star on it that you're going to be on a boat with Rob. He might not want to sail with somebody he doesn't know, but you will be stuck on a boat with Rob.
Right. And, I can be a lot. I can, as you well know.
Yeah, you can be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Believe me.
To hear you on another boat while you're racing against you, I can't imagine how loud it is on the boat.
I really try to rein it in. It just doesn't take. So.
Rob is officially the most competitive person that I've ever met in my entire life. I feel for you when I watch a race tracker and I'm not racing against you, and you're just like, there was one race I watched on a race tracker that you guys were out in the lead, and it just slowly dwindled. And it dwindled to the fact that you could have coasted across the finish line, but the wind died about 7 or 8 miles, I think, off of Maine. And
yep. And we sailed into a hole and everybody else didn't, because we were winning by so much, and then we totally screwed the pooch. So
yeah, and it was painful to watch, because I was more worried about the person you were sailing with than you.
Yeah,
you get over it, but the person you're sailing with can sometimes.
That was painful. That was the Atlantic Cup 2 times ago.
All right, so let's get into a little bit of highlights about what you've done. I think some of the sailing community probably won't really know, and they don't really have to know, and that's kind of like the humble thing. I think I found that is a similarity, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but similarity between veterans and sailing community and people that have been there and done that is that people that have been there and done that don't need to really talk about it. So it's actually kind of hard a lot of times for our coaches in the introduction meetings to actually tell people all of the things they've done. One, the list would be way too long. We don't need that. But it's also that they're pretty humble about what their opportunities have been and what they've done. So can you explain, let's do like probably offshore miles. That's always general. How many transatlantics, and then the coolest, longest distance race that you've done?
I've got about 300,000 offshore miles, maybe a tick more. And I've done 11 transatlantics and 2 trans-Pacifics. So.
And the one transatlantic, 11? You've done 11 transatlantics?
11, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I did 10 and 11 over and back. We did a transatlantic race double-handed to England, and then we sailed the same boat back across the Atlantic for number 11. So
Nice.
Yeah, that was
And
that was a
then,
long one.
yeah, some of the biggest races. I mean, obviously, Atlantic Cup stuff has been pretty big.
Yeah, I did the Transat Jacques Vabre with Hannah Jenner. That was 2 transatlantics. We sailed the boat over, and then we sailed from France to Brazil, 6,000 miles. Took 30 days.
Nice.
So that was a long one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done the Fastnet race a couple times over in Europe. That's been cool. Yeah, I've just a lot of sailing.
Sweet. And then, so
Did I answer all the questions? I forgot exactly what you asked me.
Yeah, you did. I got a dog that's whining at me, so it's just distracting me for a minute. The blank face wasn't the internet wasn't out. Okay, that was just.
Okay.
Yeah, you like. Have you seen that video of people pretend like their screen's frozen so they can get off the Zoom call?
Yeah. Yeah. Does that not work?
Yeah, okay. I think it does actually. So racing, and that brings me to another point, is that you are famous for having women co-skippers in double-handed racing. I mean, you have been racing offshore a lot with women. Tell the women and the warriors that are involved here, about those adventures. I know one of my favorite stories you tell is how Emma Crichton pretty much proved to you that she can definitely do everything just as well as you can, just because you can pull on some things maybe a little bit harder than her 5'3" frame.
Yeah, I think she might be more like 5'1". But so we got on board and she said, "Hey, I can do everything you can do. It might just take me a second longer." And she's totally correct, and I'm, probably twice. I outweigh her by 100 pounds, and I'm probably, more than a foot taller than she is. But and I end up with bloody fingers and bloody hands, and so, I mean, she definitely is doing it better than I am, for sure. But yeah, I sailed the Atlantic Cup with Emma. I sailed, over and down to Brazil with Hannah Jenner. I've sailed with Sarah Haystrider, who was on the Team SCA, which was on Volvo Around the World, Sarah. And I mean, sailing with women, it's actually really great because they're smarter than boys by a lot. And they can do everything that we can do, except they use a winch handle instead of ripping the skin off my fingers. And I learned an awful lot about using my brain more than my body from sailing with women. And then looking after myself as well, because, Emma we'd be out and we'd be covered in salt water, and, I would just wipe my eyes out and lay down on the pillow and go to sleep. And Emma would, boil some water and tap her face and get all the salt off, and then maybe even put some moisturizer on her hands. And so it has helped me figure out to really look after myself better offshore, because in the long run, will help you out and maybe help you win a sailboat race.
Nice. There's a question in the chat box from a warrior. It says, generally, how long does a transatlantic take?
Obviously it depends on how hard the wind blows. But the fastest I've done it in is 11 days on a class 40. It's anywhere between, 10 days to 3 weeks, I guess, depending upon how windy it is and from which part of the United States you're leaving and where you're going to.
Yeah. And then Corey, I'm calling you out, Corey. Corey asks, was San Diego 2017 your only poker win?
My only poker win?
Yeah, your poker run win.
So I've won that sailboat race, the race around, which is not a race. I know it's not a race, but I've won the race where we got extra cards lots of times. But I've never had the best poker hand. Just one time out of the 15 camps. I feel cheated, really, but because the sailing part of it should really be important. And you get 3 extra cards, and I love playing poker, but somehow I feel like when you hand out the cards, you've already shuffled in so that I can't win. I feel like it's fixed.
It's totally fixed.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So
It's just for everyone to know it's not fixed, and I've wanted
Yeah, I know it's not
like
fixed.
just want to put that out there.
I'm only kidding that it's fixed.
That's Ian chiming in over there. Just
I'm only joking. I'm just you know, the fact that the boat that I was on somehow made it through the pick up all the cards first, but didn't win a poker hand is just bad luck, I guess. So.
Well, speaking of luck, I mean, you have used luck in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've used up most of my lives, actually.
I have this theory that I'll never win the lottery and I won't be very good in casinos because I think everyone has like a luck amount. It's like a jar. And if you use your luck up in other ways, you're just not going to win the poker hand. But
oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay. So I see.
Like,
so I got it. I see where you're going.
I feel like you might be a character in that. And I know that it's not over evening drinks, but you did a sailboat delivery with your father.
Yep.
And this is one of my favorite stories of all time. And we don't need to hear the total story. Maybe we could record this at a different time.
Sure.
But you have a special place in your heart for the Coast Guard.
I do. I'm only alive today because of the U.S. Coast Guard. I certainly would not be here without them and their rescue swimmer and their helicopter. So yeah, we were doing a delivery from St. Thomas to Annapolis, and everything was going slowly. Not a whole lot of wind, and we thought we would be in Annapolis in about 8 days. And on the 8th day, we were still hundreds of miles. And a storm came. This is, you know, now I can get all the information I want with a satellite phone and even my own cell phone, you know, downloading some weather files and stuff. But we had an outdated weather file. And yeah, we got hit with, you know, 60-knot winds and 40-foot waves for a couple days. And it bashed the catamaran to bits. We had to set off the EPIRB, and we were 300 miles off North Carolina. And yeah, they sent a C-130 out, dropped survival suits in the water, which is a whole long explanation. But we retrieved the survival suits, put the survival suits on, and the helicopter showed up. And even though we were more than 250 miles offshore, they came anyway. And they picked us up and they flew us to Bermuda, which was blowing so hard out of the west that they could make it to Bermuda with the tailwind. And yeah, we landed with 90 pounds of fuel in the helicopter, which I'm pretty sure it's like 10 gallons or something. So I'm sure we were very close to the bingo number. But yeah, the rescue swimmer saved 3 people. It was myself, my father, and a friend of mine. So yeah, I actually have the coin they gave me that I carry with me every day. Right there, U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Air Crew, right there. I carry it in my pocket all the time.
And you, what were 2 takeaways from that air rescue, and maybe things you would have done differently or you didn't know? I know one of them is important as the long line, but
the long count, you mean?
Yeah.
Or how long the line was on the survival suits, because that was impressive as well.
Yeah, I think you
you know, I'd never had to do a long count before, and the long count is, you know, you count down from 10 and they home in on your radio signal, and it was hard to believe that, you know, I'm looking at this airplane, the C-130, and it was really not that far away, you know, like maybe 500 yards. But the boat was white, and, you know, our sail was ripped, and the sails were white, and the ocean was totally white, and they couldn't see us, you know, and that's something that you don't think about. You're like, wait a minute, we're right here. That was eye-opening. And yeah, just the amount of effort that goes into a rescue. You know, they flew a plane out there, they pushed a bunch of survival suits out, and having worn a survival suit a bunch of times now for practice and seamanship training, but also in a rescue, you know, knowing how to put that thing on before you go out there, and knowing how to use all that stuff is important.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is more virtual training. And also last year was the first year that we provided a safety at sea seminar for the warriors that did the Great Lakes tour. And we got in the pool with the life raft and jump in with your life jackets, and everybody, replace the army kits on their life jackets and that sort of thing. I think those things as training for anybody, whether you're a cruiser or a racer, don't just go for the certification, go for the knowledge. And there's a lot of stuff that we can all do right now that if you're stuck at home and you're watching videos on some of those higher points, there's classes online that there's a required class for a safety at sea seminar certification that you can take that has to be done online before you get to the class. And it's just something that you could do if you've got time. It's all knowledge and it's all stuff that you can do online. And ASA is providing webinars right now for all warriors. So if you'd like a code and would like to participate in some webinars for coastal navigation or some other things, there's a bunch of classes that they're doing right now. It's free for you guys. So if you want the code, email Corey and he can get you the code. We had a question about how long ago was that delivery? When was that rescue?
When the boat sank?
Yeah.
It was 20. It was my son's 6th birthday, I think. So, and he's 21 now. So 15 years ago. So maybe 2005, 2004, something like that.
Gotcha. I think they're probably wondering if they were stationed someplace.
The guys that came out were from Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and one of the guys from I can't remember what his name is either, but one of the guys from the Summer Sports Clinic, he runs the thing. He was a rescue swimmer for the Coast Guard, and he looked it up.
Yeah.
Tristan. And he looked it up and, found the guy's name because the rescue swimmer actually broke his arm while he was before he saved any of us, which was pretty awesome. So, yes.
Now I have seen, in the years that I've known you and this has come up, I have seen an animated Rob Windsor that animates this thing all over Salty Mike's in Charleston.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could do that for you if you want me to. I mean,
and there's like, I never believe the line's like 40 miles long, and
it was the yellow poly.
Yeah, Rob saying it really calm.
Well, I mean,
you don't need that right now. I get it. Maybe
I can give it to you if you want. I mean, because the amount of yellow poly line on the boat was over the top. It was like up to my knees and over the lifelines, and it was everywhere. It was everywhere because we had 1,500 feet of it. From pulling in the two sets, so it was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So all right, we're gonna get into like kind of stuff that you have going on. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. Besides coming back and coaching for Warrior Sailing at any opportunity that you have, which we all know that happens, and promoting the program whenever you can, you are involved in a new project.
Yeah. I'm Joe Harris. I prepared Joe's boat. Joe sailed his boat all the way around the world by himself, single-handed, 4 years ago. And next June, there's a race called the Globe 40, and it starts from Tangier, Morocco, and goes all the way around the world. And so we're going to do that, Joey and I. It's double-handed, and only Class 40s are invited. So Class 40s actually are those boats right there. Those are Class 40s in the picture behind me. And so, yeah, I'm working on getting that thing prepared this year. We're getting it ready to go in the water. It goes in on Monday. And then we've got a whole list of things that are going to get done over the winter, the fall and the winter. And we're going to sail it over there next May or June. And yeah, we'll race around the world.
And that race makes stops, right? It's not a nonstop. It's a stop race.
It is not a nonstop race. Nope. It stops, I think, 7 times. It goes from Tangier to the Cape Verde Islands. The Cape Verde Islands around past Cape Town, South Africa, to the other side, which is the island of Mauritius. And then from Mauritius, it goes to Auckland, New Zealand, Auckland to Tahiti, Tahiti around Cape Horn, which is really the reason I'm doing this, around Cape Horn to Ushuaia, Argentina, and then Ushuaia to Recife, Brazil, and Recife back to France, I think. There could be
And
one more in there. It could be Grenada. It might go to Grenada as well. I can't remember.
But and part of stopover races, for those of you that don't know, is that there's like a restart. So everyone finishes. You have like event-based stuff going on, tents, parties. Hopefully, we're all allowed to hang out together. Again, and you won't be stuck on one boat with one guy. You have to stay on your boat quarantined. When you get to one of these stopovers, it'll be like the rest of our lives. Whoa, this place was great. Well, kind of. And then you regroup and start again, and then they collectively keep your score, and then the overall winner is made the fastest. So
right, and it's not based on time; it's only based on position. So if you came in 5th, but you were 3 days behind the guy that came in first, and you beat the guy that came in first the next time by a second, that's all. It doesn't matter. It's just positions, not time.
You're not already making excuses, are you?
No way. We're going to be on the podium for sure.
Okay. All right. And
that's it.
So Anthony Torres is on. He says you wanted to know if you're doing that on Griffin Solo.
I am doing it. That's the name of the boat. I'm sorry. I should have mentioned that. Griffin Solo. Yep. It's number 106, class 40 number 106, and it's an Acalaria RC2. So it's built in 2011.
Nice.
Yep. So it's a little older version, but it's already been around the world once. So we're hoping to make it around one more time.
All right. Thank you, Rob, by the way, for taking the time to do this.
No worries at all.
Warriors for checking in. We're gonna do this, and we're gonna do. Scott Ford wants to know if you're gonna go around the horn backwards.
Nope, we're going from west sailing east.
Yeah. No one should ever do that, Scott.
I mean, they do it, but that's not the way this particular race goes. This one just has a couple more stops than the standard stops. But no, it's definitely from west to east.
Gotcha.
That's the way the prevailing wind blows all the way around the world. So that's the reason that we're going that way.
You should want to go downwind for the majority.
I've been going upwind my whole life, man. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go downwind.
So I'm going to ask us preset questions every Warrior morning watch, and that way we get some consistency in the questions to get some different answers from different folks. But if you were to give one word of advice to any Warriors, and maybe you do this now at the basic training camp, what would that be?
That do what now?
Just you, like, if you want to get involved in the sailing community and you're at the basic training camp, what do you tell people?
Yeah, I think that because sailing is something you can do forever, and no matter if you have a handicap or whatever, I think that introducing yourself to people, that's how I've done it. That's how you did it. Walking up and down the dock, or even rolling up and down the dock in your wheelchair. People in the sailing community want you to come sailing, and want to teach you things that maybe you don't know yet. And so I think that just making sure that you get yourself out there and get your name out there, and talk to people, you will be able to go sailing for a long, long time.
Nice. So this actually, encompasses a little bit of an additional question in the chat box. So worst offshore or weather story. And then the question that was saying was, what's the hardest sailing racing you've experienced, Southern Ocean or Atlantic? And I think that's could be kind of saying the same way. So what's the hardest sailing that you've done, and worst weather?
The hardest sailing for me, like the long distance, like really, really long, like the race from France to Brazil, it was the grind of it all, but not the weather. The cold is the thing that gets me. And so doing transatlantics where the water is cold and the wind is cold, and even the Atlantic Cup, like 2 years ago, the Atlantic Cup coming up here, it was so cold I had to put my survival suit on. That is awful for me. I'd like to be sailing in the tropics all the time.
I think all of us can collectively say that the most hilarious thing that I've ever seen was well, at least with me, in reference to being cold and wet is just awful. And for people that have signed up to do this for a living, being cold and wet majority of our lives, that's actually what we've done. And it's the one thing that we all really hate, to be cold and wet.
Oh, it's the worst, man. It's the worst.
It doesn't
Being
matter
cold.
where you are. We once had a charter guest or somebody that came on board for the Class 40 that did the Caribbean 600. And he flew all the way from the Netherlands, and he didn't bring any foul weather gear because he figured it was the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's a wet
problem
one.
is when you're soaking wet, anybody knows it doesn't matter if it's warm out. If it's nighttime and it's still kind of chilly and you're wet, you are not happy.
Oh, it's the worst. Being cold is the worst. So, I mean, any time that I've been cold, but this last time, we went upwind out of New York City around Nantucket Shoals the whole way. And it was just, nonstop banging. And it was June, and we're sailing to Maine. And, summer doesn't start in Maine until like August. So, it was a cold one and miserable. So, and obviously the worst time I've had on a boat is when it sank. So that one, I just told that story. So.
Hand up on that one. I think that you got, that's usually the worst, is when the boat underneath your feet goes away.
Yeah, that one sucked. That one sucked.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So this is kind of particular for the Warrior Sailing Program, which is great. What is something you have learned about the veteran population that you didn't know before Warrior Sailing?
What I learned, which I tell a lot of people this when I talk about Warrior Sailing, is that the U.S. government did a really good job of teaching all the veterans how not to complain. They don't complain that they're cold or tired or anything. They just say, "What's next, boss? What can I do?" And so the resiliency was the biggest thing for me. I was like, "Geez, this is fantastic. I could make the sailing part is easy." It's usually, "Hey, Robbie, when are we going to get to eat? I'm tired. I'm cold." And I never hear anything like that from the vets. So that was the biggest eye-opening thing for me.
Yeah, I agree. That inner toughness, we usually end up spending more time talking about how terrible it's going to be. And then I really realized okay, people stuck in small places with the same people for a long time being cold and wet. And everyone goes, yeah, I'm with you. And they go to the next subject. You're like, you don't want any other questions? That's it. You just all right. This is
well, and nobody. A couple of guys have said, "Oh, well, yeah, it is cold. It's wet, but nobody's shooting at us, so everything's okay." So there's that.
That's pretty easy. So I guess in that, what are some similarities that you found between the sailing and sailors that or what you've done and veterans?
I think, again, it's going to go back to like the toughness. I'm certainly not the best sailor, but I grind it out pretty well with the best of them, and that's the reason that I've been doing this a long time and why I've got some decent results. And I think that the toughness in the veterans and the veteran community is one of the similarities for me. I think that. Again, just to go back to what I said before about the complaining and the warm and the cold and the tired and whatnot. And I think that the best sailors, we might complain about it when we're on land, but you're not going to hear me complaining about it when we're trying to do our jobs and try to win a race,
Yeah. And I found that same thing. I think it's, I'd much rather, and you and I have had that same discussion about, I'd much rather sail with 10 people who are all on the same page, who are friends and have saved each other's lives and maybe are learning as we're going, rather than sailing with 10 rock stars who are complaining the whole time that this wind isn't what it's supposed to be, or, my foods doesn't taste good, or, my boots aren't waterproof anymore. It's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. This is how it goes.
Not a whole lot of prima donnas in the veteran community, which I kind of like, so.
Yeah. So it's been good. I did have one other question in the chat box that asked about the difference in the Class 40 between like a 1990 Trick 40. Would they fall into the Class 40 rule?
No, it doesn't. A Class 40 is actually a one design. It's a box rule, but it's a one design. So even though it's a lot bigger and different than a J22, which is one of the boats that we use in the Warrior program, Those boats are all the same, and they've come up with a box rule. So as long as your boat fits in the box, it's the same. But the amount of rules, a Trip 40 only has one rudder, and it certainly is not a planing hull. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not from the 90s anyway. And so it's the different boat. No, it would not. There's a whole lot of rules, and you have to submit plans to be able to call your boat a class 40, and it has to be approved by the class. It's lots of rules.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for all my questions. And Rob, I just really want to thank you very much for taking an hour out of your day to kind of connect with us.
I'm going to bill Joey for it anyway, so it'll be fine.
That's great. Joey, that's fine. It's worth it. If you need a tax deduction for you to let us know.
I'm only kidding.
You're going to make up the time later. I think you got some time to put some things together.
I do. I'm just going to skip lunch. That's all.
Yeah. But what we're going to do, I told Corey, one of the major points of doing this sort of thing is to get the camaraderie and have familiar faces. And I see a lot of familiar people out there. Thank you very much for signing on. I know it's like a couple sentences, but I wanted to get Corey on the line just to have him explain a little bit about what we have going on with Warrior Sailing as a program, looking forward, and things that we have going on, and how we can all stay in touch. And we'll have a little bit more announcements coming up with regard to another morning watch and the next character that we bring forth, and hopefully we can keep this thing going and people continue to chime in. So. Hey, Corey, are you there?
Hey, everybody.
How's it going, Corbear?
One, this is awesome. It's great to see everybody. It really, we miss this, I think, just as much, if not more than everybody. And as a planner and somebody who really thrives off the energy of interacting with you guys and putting events together and executing them, it's really disappointing to not be out doing events right now. But it's really reassuring to see everybody staying engaged and looking out for each other and using what opportunities we have to do that. So thank you guys for logging in. Thanks for keeping in touch. Emails, texts, funny pictures, other pictures I don't want to share. You don't need to send those anymore. But great to see you all. From here, so like every other program out there, we've had to suspend everything we do. And at this point, we've done so through the month of June for all of our larger regularly scheduled events. So that's training camps, regattas, so on. We are, depending upon the lifting of regulations, going to try to put together a little something with local folks up in the Michigan area. So if you do see Great Lakes stuff, we're just trying it out within local regulations. But at this point, we're not given the clear to travel people yet to make anything happen. Those of you that were going to be involved with the Charleston Race Week and the Charleston certification course, we're looking at moving the certification course to the end of August in Park City. And if I can double down on numbers and change up the training a little bit to even include folks who maybe have done the certification, but want to get out and do some sailing, we'll do that. We'll do our best to include as many people as we can. And hopefully by the end of August, things look a little bit more normal. Beyond that, the race week folks, we've moved that regatta up to the Ugata Regatta at the end of July. The end of July, honestly, is pretty suspect. Looking at the way events are being canceled, moved, shifted, I don't know that will happen. If it doesn't happen, we're going to shift it to another one. The reality is right now, we have to all be super flexible. The nice part is the VA, which is our largest donor, if you will, for these events, is also being really flexible. So the funds that we were going to use for those events, we can kind of transfer on to some other ones. So what we really need to hear from you guys is, hey, this is what we're interested in doing. This is what we'd feel comfortable doing. If there are other things happening this fall, fiscal year ends October 1. So we're trying to kind of fit whatever we can in as soon as things open up. So don't hesitate to reach out. maybe we can put something together if you know of a specific event or a specific style of training you guys want to see us execute. I'd love to hear back from you guys. Online stuff. So what we can do, virtual sailing. A couple of you guys were involved in the pilot. So we did kind of a pilot program where we invited a few people that missed out on those Charleston events that we had to cancel to come online to do a short Zoom training on virtual regatta, and then to start Wednesday night racing as part of our weekly programming. The folks that have been on there, it seems like it went, pretty well. It's fun to touch base and chat with everybody. And then it's fun to get on the water, virtually and race against each other. So I'd like to invite everybody that's on here now, and I'll put out the info to go back, watch that initial training. Maybe we'll get everybody spun up, and then we'll give you the login codes so we can have bigger groups doing Wednesday nights online.
I'd like to get in on that.
Without a doubt. I get to race head to head with Rob Windsor. I mean,
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Cool. So that's what we've got going on. Keep an eye on the Alumni Network. Keep an eye out for emails, and don't ever hesitate to drop a line, send a text, give a call, or an email if there's something you want to touch base on, or if you think you might not have got the info. I love that everybody always starts their emails off with, "Oh, I don't mean to bother you," or "Yeah, you're busy," but bother us. That's what we're here. So look forward to hearing from everybody and seeing you out on the water on Wednesday nights. And sorry when I run into your boat, but not really your boat. So
it's the time to do it, Corey. Right now,
Yes.
It's time to run into people's boats while we're on a computer.
There you go. Anything anybody has while we're on? All right then.
Yeah. If there's ways to improve, if you guys want to see more things, we're going to promote the next week's communication with everybody and figure out another person to get on here and ask a lot of the same questions. Just have a conversation with people in the sailing community. One thing that I did put a challenge out to all the warriors is, in these times when we're we're forced to have some isolation. We all know that isolation isn't the best thing for a lot of us, including us or anybody, but in particular, the crowd that we're servicing here, if you sailed with somebody that or you haven't touched base with for a long time, shoot them a message, man. It's on us as a community to communicate to each other. So whether that's on the alumni page, just post something up there, or send a text message or phone number, or call your sailing buddy. They're our battle buddies at this point. So get in touch with us and stay in touch with each other and get everybody out on these calls. We can have as many people on these as we want. So thank you very much for attending, and just a little over an hour, try to keep it to an hour, and we'll promote the next one. Will be on the alumni page, and we'll send an email out to everybody, letting everybody know. So tell your friends. And
we'll hang out for a few minutes if anybody, after folks take off, if anybody wants to stay on, chat, has a question, hit us up. So Ben and I at least will hang here for a little bit. Maybe Ian and maybe Rob. I don't know.
Rob's going to work. I can already tell he's outside. That's it. But Robbie,
can you still see me out here?
Hey, your video's still on. Don't be peeing.
Oh no, I'm not peeing. I just I got some. Anyway, I'm here.
Okay, well,
I'm still here.
Rob, thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. This was really nice, and I will check in maybe next time. What is it? It's going to be every Friday, or is that right? Every Friday at 11?
I think we're going to try Fridays. Seem to work out fine for everybody. No one else has anything going on.
Cool. And yeah, I will try to sign up for the Wednesday virtual sailing. So
yeah, just go to virtualsailing.com and set up an account, and you have to do some trial sales before you can race, and then I'll just send you the information.
I'll include you on the orientation email, Rob.
That'd be great. Thank you very much. And yeah, we'll so long to everybody from Maine, and I'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Rob.
See you, Rob. Thank you.
So yeah, I think we had a little. Let me see, Greg, Scott, you were just wondering if there's any contacts out in Hawaii. I think as of right now, we've got contacts as far as personal people that are out there, but most of it all really doesn't have any opportunities at this point. So it's kind of a hurry up and wait kind of situation for everybody. So,
You remember the name of that? The name of the boat that did the? Oh gosh,
Trader.
Trader.
There you go.
Yeah, I hooked up with Doug in December. Good guy. Yeah, appreciate that.
No worries. No particular synergy there though.
I mean, it's kind of a unique situation. He's got a SOP, a standard operating procedure for his boat. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
He usually takes, like retired, upper level enlisted and officers just because they know how to follow orders or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Like personally, he's like the first time I sailed, or the only time I sailed with him, he put out his tip bucket for the first time, and he's looking for contribution, which, I'm not, that's how I was raised, pull your weight or whatever. But, I mean, there's just so many other people that really need, a hand versus, a handout, I guess.
Yeah, we've had, there's one of he was at a St. Pete camp, and he moved out there from Texas. Super good dude, who did link up with him, has done some sailing with him and whatnot. But I kind of got the same thing when the first time that they reached out to us, it was for sponsorship, and it was like,
yeah,
oh man, like we're trying to find people to give us sponsorships as well. But
how much are you gonna give us per warrior? We give you taught how to sail, and we were kind of like, what?
I sent them some hats as a thank you, for the guy on the water and getting them engaged in the community down there. But that's really the bulk of the interactions. I don't know if Anthony, it doesn't look like Anthony's still on. I know he spent some time out that way.
I mean, I can when there's a little less on the regulations, let me dig a little bit because I got a lot of a lot of people in the sailing community that are members at the Kaneohe Yacht Club.
Sure.
And that club, I mean, is just one of the most spectacular places to be, but they do a lot of Wednesday night races and Sundays and Saturdays stuff. And it's, seen as kind of this exclusive membership situation compared to some stuff in Honolulu, but there's a lot of people there, just like most sailing communities, that are interested in trying to get people involved. So let me do a little bit of digging, and I'll communicate with Corey. If we come up with something in the next week, we'll kind of send it your way. It's like, a friend of mine, Mark Towell, lives out there, but he's, Volvo Ocean Race 2 times around the world. Like, I don't know how much Wednesday night racing he does, but he would be like the contact that would be the person you want to go out with because he knows everybody there. But when he's got time off, I don't think he spends much time on the water. So,
Sure.
The ones who sail too much for a living are the ones who definitely are not that involved on the like the fun casual sailing on beer can races and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like, if somebody asks you to do your military job for free on a Wednesday night, just because they really wanted to go out to do your military job, I don't know. It's just kind of like, yeah, well, maybe the next time we're all together. But just give us we can inquire a little bit. We'll kind of send the bat signal out. Send the warrior signal from the house around a little bit to see what the community drags back to us. But it's just awesome that you're continuing to stay engaged.
Yeah, and it could also be a question too, Ben, for like if Cole might know somebody from her college days.
Yeah, that would probably that'd be a great contact because Cole probably has some people that local that raced and they're younger who need crew, and that's kind of the speed you're probably looking for, someone to not treat you like a veteran but just treat you like a sailor.
Yeah, I'd appreciate
Andre,
that.
I saw your thing up there about Saturday mornings. Yeah, I mean, I think we're open to whatever. I mean, it was going to be Monday morning watch because it had a nice ring to it, but then it turned into, it's Friday because Rob is sailing somewhere, and I don't think we're set on anything. I see this kind of switching around a little bit based on people's availability to log in.
Yeah, Saturday morning would work too. I mean,
The other thing too is we are recording this and we're gonna share them. So we'll maybe figure a way to, if we do have one and somebody misses it or you can't make it, to still catch up and kind of stay tuned. And then I think that'll probably be helpful too. And then the other thing too is if you can't make it on, like if you can't hop on the video, just use the call in and then just like set it like at the radio and just like, keep it in the background. Is another idea too. Just to
Are you telling people how they could be at work but not be working?
I mean,
That looked like actually that's what he was doing. Like I think he's actually doing his other job while he's online looking at this. So I think, yeah.
Well, he is a millennial.
Yeah, multitasking.
something like that. The mute button's your friend.
Yeah, we could, but yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about that. All of those suggestions are awesome because, it's not really about us. I'm going to continue bringing some characters that I might ask some more crazy questions to, but we'll see who we can get on the line. Everybody said that they would volunteer some time or they're really excited about really connecting, even people that haven't coached at our camps before, which I think would be cool. Maybe we could all convince them they need to come to a camp. Not that they don't want to, just they've all never made time for it in their schedules. And this is a good opportunity to put them on the spot with a bunch of warriors sitting there looking at them like, oh, really? You don't want to come help me?
I saw Miguel post the drone footage from the Volvo thing. Maybe Sam's got some time to tell some stories. He's got such a unique perspective of being involved with sailing but not sailing.
Yeah, he's on the list. I also I think getting Cammie on would be awesome. Her perspective from being the team manager, cook, and extraordinaire for logistics is awesome. Like we make a joke that Cammie has the most world championships out of anybody in sailing, and she's never been on a sailboat. She has cooked and managed teams and their logistics and houses and all that stuff for the top teams in the world. I think she has the teams she's cooked for. She's won the teams have won 25 world championships or something crazy. But I think those are the perspectives of people that operate in the sailing community that, get kind of passed up and they go right for people that are on the boat. So it'll be unique people. And hopefully we can get some more people on. So.
Yeah. Don,
Corey,
about the females too. That would be a very interesting contrast to Rob, as he talked about, sailing with Anna or Emma, some of these folks that have done some of that to get that perspective. I'd be willing to, it'd be fun to mirror Rob's stories of sailing with them and their sailing with Rob.
Well, I think part of my interview scheme, I think, is I've got a list that's really long of characters that I think would be great to interview. So we got weeks of this, even the quarantine or not. But I thought I'd get the perspective on one, and then the next week we have somebody that sailed with a person and ask them what their side of the story is. Because I bet you Rob's dad has a different story about that helicopter rescue than Rob does.
Indeed.
But yeah, but with Don, we definitely do that. They're on the list. There's 10 female sailors that I would love to. I've been trying to get at all of our camps as coaches as well. So we've got a lot of people there. We'll spread the love, that's for sure.
Kind of that gentleman spoke about small communities. If I could get just a couple more details, I could probably find the pilots and they could offer their perspective if you wanted that third or fourth perspective on that rescue.
I think Rob would love to hear from those guys. That'd be amazing. Yeah.
I could probably call one dude and he'd be like, oh yeah, let me find him. But
yeah. And that's the same thing in sailing. It's you got the one dude that was there that was oh, and did that. So. Awesome. Well, I need to get going. I got to fix a boat at a boatyard. So I really appreciate everyone signing on, and we'll speak to you guys soon. Contact the people that you've been sailing with.
Hey, guys, I just wanted to say something real quick. I officially retired back in February during the event that we had back in Miami. So if you guys need anything, help with anything, or even, administrative stuff on the background, feel free to reach out. I got time to burn, and that's a lot of time that I need to burn.
How are you at homeschooling 9-year-olds?
How about a 4.5-year-old? You any good at that?
I don't have any kids, so good luck with that.
That's the best experience ever.
And on the other note, I'm trying to bring myself up to speed with becoming a drone pilot as well. I own 2 drones right now, and it's something that I would like to incorporate at a later date if you guys are up to it.
Sweet.
Cool.
That'd be awesome.
I can ask Sam about that. There's a lot of you posted a photo on the alumni page of the drone flying over the Brunel boat in the Volvo Ocean
Right.
Race. Sam's the guy that did that.
Really?
He was driving that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that right now, and I'm actually comparing a couple of drones right now, and I'm probably gonna go with the DJI.
Well, he can definitely answer a lot of those questions because he definitely. I mean, he's won awards for his drone footage. He's on America's Cup team, and he does Sail GP. So he's the guy doing all the drone footage and all the media behind the scenes for all those programs. He's done 3 Volvo Ocean races, I think, or maybe 2, onboard reporter.
Sweet.
So Sam's one of the high priority guys. Just a really nice guy too, a young guy. So yeah.
Eventually, I'd like to get into that, into offshore sailing. I loved it in Miami, as bad of an experience as I had, as particularly the day after. I was completely, I was sucked in by it. And as soon as I get my health back online, then I'd like to get more involved with offshore sailing.
Cool. Sounds good.
So
There's weird noises coming from inside my house. I'm gonna hit it. It's great to see everybody.
Yeah, I gotta hit it too. You guys can stay on here if you want. I promise I'll stop recording. But I'll talk to everybody soon. Thank you guys.